Trick or treat!
Trick or treat! Oh, what do we have here?
A skeleton and a ghoul.
Oh, you guys look great. Take more. We have plenty. Skittles, huh?
This happened back when I was 17. My last Halloween at home before going away to college. It was Halloween in our peaceful town where nothing bad ever happens. Our house is in the wealthier side of town, and our house would be described as gorgeous by anyone not from the area. The real head turner is our next door neighbor's house. It sits on that line of being called just a huge house or a mansion. They always go crazy with their decorations for any holiday, specifically Halloween and Christmas. This one year was no exception. By October 1st, they already had all their crazy decorations out. Some houses go the cute and innocently spooky route, like with smiling ghosts and blow-up decorations. But our neighbors go the actual scary route, with the fake graves, fake bloody body bags, actually scary-looking fake corpses, etc. It actually draws a lot of attention. People on the road drive by and take videos. So it's never uncommon to see vehicles in front of their house in the middle of the street from time to time. I'll rename my neighbors' names to Mike and Donna, just to not blow up their spots even more. Fast forward to Halloween Day. It was luckily a Friday this year, so that meant parties and all could be held on actual Halloween. My dog Kevin sleeps downstairs in the corner of our dining room, and he woke me up really early morning, like 4 a.m., when it was still pitch black outside. He was barking at something outside. I yelled across the house to shut up Kevin, and my mom came out into the hall and did the same. Kevin stopped barking after this, but I had no idea what he was barking at. I fell back asleep quickly after that, then woke up to my alarm like 2 hours later. So I started getting ready for school, as my dad was leaving for work. And as he stepped out onto the front door, he came back in and got mad at me and said, "Damn it, son, clean up the dog shit." He thought I let our dog shit in front of the house for some reason. I told him I definitely didn't though. He was in a hurry, so he left without more arguing. Next up, it was my turn to leave for school. And as I left the house, I got a whiff of something kind of unpleasant. I now knew what my dad was talking about. I didn't see dog shit anywhere though. Later when I got home around 2 p.m. I still smelt that smell. I had no idea what it was, but it was really starting to stink. My parents were both at work. My parents wanted me to hand out candy when trick-or-treaters started coming. It was until around 5 p.m. that they started coming. When I opened the door to the first few trick-or-treaters, I'd get a whiff of that increasingly horrible stink. And the kids and their parents clearly smelt it too, because they were all commenting on it. One parent told me it was even worse next door. I started to know whenever to expect the doorbell to ring, because I'd hear groups of people pointing out how horrible it smells. At one point I saw Mike and Donna in front of their house looking around. So I went outside and went over to ask them if they smelt that too. But that was hardly a question, because it got worse on their property. It clearly was coming from the front of their property, but there wasn't any dog shit or anything. The smell was coming from one of the body bag decorations. It apparently wasn't the only body bag. The couple had more number of fake body bags leaned on things like the mailbox and their front tree. But there was one just laying flat on the ground, and Mike said to Donna that he didn't put that there when she asked. The smell was unbearable from this bag. Mike ran to grab a knife and cut the bag open, and what we saw made me sick. He of course cut the top of the bag open, revealing the rotting face of an actual human corpse inside the bag. We all put our hands over our mouths in disgust, wanting to throw up, and of course there was an audience of kids and parents to see what was going on. It became a huge scenario. I called the cops and the whole area literally became a crime scene with people gathering from all over to watch, even though the cops kept telling everyone to clear out. The body was taken away. I told the police that my dog Kevin was barking last night at like 4 a.m. and he may have been barking at whoever dumped the body there. Mike told my dad a week later that the body turned out to be a local 30-something-year-old guy who had taken his own life. We still don't know who dropped the body there or why. Mike and Donna are very likable people, so we all think that it was somebody who just looked at them as some rich household that overdoes it with the decorations for attention. Obviously, there are some extremely sick people out there. I'm a single 24-year-old female living alone in my grandma's house. The house was basically left to me after she passed away because my mom didn't want to sell it and she also doesn't want to move out of her house. So I get to stay in my grandma's house alone. This was last year Halloween, my first one living in the house alone. I considered just leaving a bowl of candies on the stoop, but I figured that was not the best way to associate a friendly face to the house that I was new to living in. The day went pretty normally. Halloween was on a Sunday, so the trick-or-treaters started coming early on in the day and it continued all day. Some people asked if my grandma was home, sadly unaware that she had passed away. I explained to those people that I'm her granddaughter and that I live here now. My grandma was a very lovely lady, so it was no shock to me that how many people asked about her that day. Mostly everyone who knocked on the door was very friendly and normal. Later on that night, past 9 o'clock, when all the trick-or-treaters had left, I heard a voice outside the front door that says trick or treat. No knocking or ringing the doorbell. I went out to greet him, and what I saw was this average height guy in a purple suit and creepy plastic mask. When I opened the door, he said trick or treat again. But the strange thing was, the guy was a bit older, like a full-grown adult, and he was trying to sound younger. It was strange. I assumed he may be having some issues, so whatever. I asked him what his costume was supposed to be, but he didn't answer. We just made eye contact through his mask. I took 2 pieces of candy and dropped it in his pillow sack, which looked completely empty. That was the part that weirded me out the most. He looked into the sack, then back at me. I said have a good night and closed the door. He was the last trick-or-treater of the night. I wondered if he was accompanied by anybody watching over him, because he was clearly a 30-something-year-old man behind that mask. The next night, round the same time as the previous night, I heard a loud trick-or-treat at the front door. That same creepy voice. When I went to check through the peephole in the door, it was him again in the same costume, and by the looks of it he had an equally empty pillow sack as the night before. I didn't open the door this time. A few minutes later I heard him shout trick or treat again. I ignored it. In fact, I shut off the living room lights and said, "Hey, get off my stoop, I'm not answering the door." I went upstairs to my room and shut the door and started watching TV in there instead. Few minutes later, I heard my window shatter. Something was thrown at it like a rock. I muted the volume on the TV, and a few seconds later I heard the familiar trick or treat. I suddenly was in panic mode. Why was he doing this? I went to the window, lifted it up and looked down. That man in the purple suit and mask was looking up at me. I threatened him with calling the police. In response, he slowly lifted his empty pillow sack up and held it open. It seemed he was some asshole trying to scare me. But Halloween was over and I wasn't amused. I called 911 and police showed up in under 10 minutes. They put him in handcuffs and took his mask off, and as I figured, it was some creepy-looking 30-something-year-old guy. They told me they were bringing him down to the station, but apparently they let him out within 48 hours. 2 nights later, he came back to my house, this time at the backyard door. He never knocked or rang the bell. He would just stand outside with his empty sack, creepily yelling trick or treat. I called the police again and told him he's back, and once again the police came and arrested him. I swear to God, a week later, the man had returned once again, throwing a rock in my window. This time when I called 911, he seemed to actually disappear before the police had gotten there. But regardless, it seemed the police didn't really care to do anything. Either that or they couldn't. Luckily, I think the man lost interest, because he hasn't returned since then, unless he's been hiding behind the bushes watching me. Halloween is coming up and I'm kind of nervous he's going to come back.